Hi again. I'm so happy to be here at week 7. It's as if we've been climbing a mountain together, and the view from up here is, Baruch Hashem, really grand. Today we're talking about how to stay within the space of our own life and our own life's purpose. May this learning and any good that comes out of it, again, be as chus for refuah shalema, complete strength and good health for my father, Rabbi Aaron Yaakov ben Bunya, and for my mother, Rachel Bas Yehudis. A man walked into his house one day to find his little Chayimel on the floor of the living room, on his hands and knees. The man, Chayimel's father, asks, "Hey, what's going on?" Chayimel says, "I'm looking for my watch. I lost it a few minutes ago, and I really want to find it." The father, of course, cared about his son, and he asked, "Would you like me to help you look for it?" Chayimel says, "Sure, thank you so much." So the father gets down on the floor next to Chaim, also on his hands and knees, and starts looking around. He scans the entire floor, and it's all clear. The entire living room floor is empty. This did not take place in my house. There's nothing on it. So he turns to his son and he says, "Chayimel, where did you lose your watch?" Chayimel says, "Where did I lose it? It fell off of my hand when I was in the kitchen." The father asks, "In the kitchen? You lost your watch in the kitchen? So why are we looking for it here in the living room?" Chayimel says, "Because in the kitchen, the orange was spilled all over the floor, and I wiped it up, but it's still sticky all over the place. Here in the living room, I could easily spread out on the floor without getting dirty. It's much more better here. It's more comfortable. I'd rather look for it here." Hashem created each of us. Hashem sends us into the world for a specific purpose. We're on the lookout for opportunities to demonstrate and reveal that Anochi Hashem Alekecha, I am Hashem, your power. Our collective mission is to pull aside the curtain that hides Hashem, to find Hashem, to come to know Hashem. When this mission is complete, that's Geula. When Mashiach comes, the whole world will know that Hashem is Hashem and that Ein Od Milvado. Until Mashiach comes, our mission, our avodah, is to prepare for that time, to come to know Hashem as best as we possibly can. On a personal level, each of us has our own unique space within which we're asked to do this avodah. That space is our own lives, our own relationships, our own homes, our own circle of influence. More specifically, that space is our own choices. It's our power of choice, and it's what we choose to think about in our minds, where we choose to invest the energy of our hearts, and what we actually choose to do with our time and with the resources that Hashem gives us. We want to let Hashem's emes be the reason why we're thinking what we're thinking, the reason why we're speaking what we're speaking, and the reason why we're doing what we're doing. And every time we do that, every moment in which we do that, we're fulfilling the purpose for which we were created. In order to make choices and fulfill our life's purpose, we need to actually be in the physical and emotional space where making choices is possible. The challenge we experience with this is that when things are uncomfortable in our lives, we instinctively look outward to what other people have or to what other people are choosing. When we do that, we're not in the position of making choices. We're out of our ballpark. We're out of the game. We're doing what the little boy did. We're doing things, we're keeping ourselves busy, but it's got nothing to do with fulfilling our life's purpose. Because fulfilling our life's purpose could only happen in the space of our own lives and our own choices. The Mishnah tells us, Kol Yisrael yesh lehem chelek la'olam haba, shenemar v'amech kulam sadikim la'olam yirshu aretz, neitzer mata'ai ma'aseh yadai lehispar. Every yid has a chelek, has a part in olam haba. As it says, we are all of your people are righteous, are all tzaddikim. Forever they will inherit the land. We are the growth of Hashem's planting, the work of His own hands in which He takes pride. Every yid has a part in Olam Haba. Kol Yisrael yesh lehem chelek la'olam haba. Olam Haba could mean two different things. The first meaning of Olam Haba is the future world of an individual person after completing life on earth. From that perspective, when we say that every yid has a chelek in Olam Haba, we're reminding ourselves that whatever we do now, each and every choice we make has eternal impact. It's not just about now, it has eternal impact. There's another meaning to the words Olam Haba. The world as we know it today is Olam HaSheker. It's a world in which Hashem is hidden, and on the outside of His hiddenness, there's a space for lies. There's a space for beliefs that contradict Hashem's emes. There will be a time when the entire world will be in a state of emes. There will be a time when Hashem's presence will no longer be hidden. His presence, His truth will be exposed and completely revealed. We daven for that time every single day, and we're already experiencing, we're tasting the beginning of that time. This time period, this world, is known as Olam Haba. It's the world as it will be after Mashiach comes. In Torah our Parshas Miketz, the Baal Tanya expounds on the words of this Mishnah, Kol Yisrael yesh lam chelek la'olam haba. The Baal Tanya says every Yid has a chelek, a specific space that's ours to transform into Olam Haba. We each have a mission to do, and that mission is to transform our individual lives, the space of our minds and our hearts and our choices, into a place of Olam Haba. How do we know what our chelek is? Wherever we are, wherever we have influence, in all of our relationships, in all the roles that we play in our lives as individuals, as wives, as mothers, daughters, sisters, friends, neighbors, that's our chelek. That's our personal space, which Hashem wants us to transform into Olam Haba. How do we transform it into Olam Haba? By exposing Hashem's full-fledged existence in that space. So we're not just random individuals in our own time. We're Netzer Mata'ai Maseh Yadai L'Hispar. Hashem personally plants Himself within each of us. We're the work of Hashem's hands. We are His personal pride. So there's a part of us that will think, big deal, what does it matter? What do I do for 1 minute? It's just me and it's just 1 minute of my time. But if we think about who we really are, we take the gift of our life, every moment of our life, and the power of our choice, each and every one of our choices, very seriously. The media is obsessed with our president. They report on what he said, what he should have said, what he was planning on saying, what he will probably say. Why are the details important? Because he's the president of our country. Hashem, Melech Malchei HaMelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu, has made each and every one of us the president of our world. We're the chief executive officer of our entire sphere of influence. We have a huge land, an entire chelek, a portion of this world, which is only ours to transform into a place that knows Hashem. And the entire Klal Yisrael, all of our people throughout history, and all the people in the world today, not just Klal Yisrael, but the entire universe, depends on us. Our choice this minute is literally bringing on the Olam Haba for ourselves and for all of Klal Yisrael. At any given moment in time, we're either in the space of our own life, fulfilling our life's purpose, transforming our chelek into Olam Haba, or we're not. It's that simple. We're either actively involved, engaged in what's happening in our own space right now, or we're in someone else's life. In order to create our space into Olam Haba, we actually need to be in our own space. But sometimes we're in our heads thinking about our life instead of actively making choices and creating Olam Haba within our lives. What gets us to move away from our own space? It's pain or discomfort. Anytime there is pain or discomfort, we instinctively jump out of our own space. Think about what happens on the dentist's chair. The drill goes on or the needle comes out and we automatically pull back into the chair. Where are we going? Nowhere. We're adults. We're not running off the dentist's chair, even though maybe our heart is. But still, we automatically pull back. Even just in our hearts, we resist pain. We move away from it. Why does this happen? Because our Yetzer Hara, which is a very real part of us, is deathly allergic to pain and discomfort. Our Yetzer Hara has one objective in life: to keep us in a constant state of comfort and pleasure. Our Yetzer Hara has zero tolerance for anything that's uncomfortable or for anything that's painful. In fact, the Yetzer Hara cannot even differentiate between discomfort and pain. When we meet up with discomfort, our Yetzer Hara is on immediate, instant alert. It starts pulling all kinds of alarm bells inside of us. It's screaming at us to do anything to prevent the discomfort, even if the discomfort is actually in our best interests. To the Yetzer Hara, any discomfort is dangerous. Of course, we don't see our Yetzer Hara pulling all these alarm bells and making all that noise. We don't see how the Yetzer Hara's allergic reaction to pain and discomfort drives us, gets us to move out of our lives and into other territory. Many times we're not even aware of how the pain and discomfort gets us to move away from our life. It's a habit. It's not even a rule. It's just what we do. And when we do that, we're not in the position to fill our life's purpose. It's as if we're saying what the little boy in the story said, why would I want to do my life in my life? It's sticky and messy in there. I'd rather do my life in my head, or I'd rather do my life in someone else's playing field. Of course, we want to live in our own life. The challenge is that we don't even realize when we leave. It's a process that happens subconsciously and so smoothly that we don't even blink. I hope that today's discussion will give every one of us more awareness about the value and what it looks like to stay in our own life. And we'll start recognizing the moments or the instances, the situations in which we find ourselves leaving, and we can get right back to where we want to be. Two men were sitting on the hard chairs in the doctor's waiting room. They were there because as part of the treatment protocol for the gangrene on their feet, the doctor would remove the affected tissue. As they sat together waiting, they started schmoozing. They were both friendly people, and their conversation jumped through all kinds of different topics. After 20 minutes of waiting, passing time together, Steve, the first guy, was called in by the nurse. Outside in the waiting room, Joe could hear Steve yelling out in agony. Removing the gangrene was obviously a very painful procedure. After a few minutes, it was Joe's turn with the doctor. Steve was expecting to hear cries of pain coming out of the room, but there was nothing. The hallway was completely silent. Steve wanted to learn Joe's method of pain management or self-control. He sat back on the hard chair, waiting. Soon enough, Joe strolls out of the office, whistling as he passed. "Hey, Joe," Steve called. "I know what the good doctor does to gangrene. I know how much it hurts, but you didn't sound like you were in pain. Please tell me, what's your secret?" "Oh, it's nothing really," Joe said. "I just like to keep things simple. The gangrene is on my right foot, so I gave the doctor my left one. It didn't hurt at all." Joe came to the doctor to be healed, but when it came to receiving the treatment that he needed, he didn't really play a trick on the doctor. He played a trick on himself. We have a mission to accomplish in this world. We're carriers of Hashem's light. We've come to this world to pull aside the curtain that hides Hashem and expose his emes. We've come to share Hashem's light within every inch of our own hearts and within every inch of the world around us. How do we give of that light? How do we let that shine forth? Through the thoughts that we fill our minds with, through the words that we say, through the things we do, with the energy and the resources that we have. Where do we let that light shine forth? Wherever we may be, in every relationship we have, in any place we live or work or shop, wherever we go, that's our space. But when things get uncomfortable, we instinctively withdraw. We put forth our other foot. Here, life, take that. It's not even that we want to put forth our other foot. It's our Yetzer Hara that must put forth our other foot. Because according to our Yetzer Hara, discomfort is dangerous and deadly. This is our instinctive nature. How do we know when we're in our life? How do we know when we're not? Here are two big ways to know. Number one, when you're in your life, the spotlight in your mind is focused on your own heart and your own experience in this particular moment. When the spotlight in your mind is focused on other people, or it's focused in the past or in the future, that's out of your space. That's the first way to know. And the second way to know immediately follows. When you're in your life, you're actively, consciously making choices about what to think about, what to say, and how to move forward. When you're not in your life, you feel helpless. You're not empowered to make choices, and you feel like your choices don't even matter. You're stuck. Let's say that in a little bit shorter. When you're in your life, the focus of your attention is within your own self and within this very minute here and now. You're making choices about your behavior. When you're not in your life, the focus of your attention is outside of your own self and outside of this moment, and you're not making choices about your behavior. Your mind is in other places. The Baal Shem Tov said, wherever your mind is, that's where you are, all of you. When the spotlight in our mind is focused within the space where we could fulfill our life's purpose, where we can make choices, that's being in our life. When we're thinking about what someone else said or did, or how could they, or how awful is that, that's called being in someone else's life. Or when we're thinking about what happened yesterday, what might happen tomorrow, what could possibly happen next week, that's being in a different time zone. It's not our own life as it is here and now. A man once came to the Tzemach Tzedek with a problem. He said, Rebbe, people today just aren't sensitive. Wherever I go, everyone steps all over me. The Rebbe said, why do you spread yourself out in such a way that wherever people step, it's on you? This story includes the two defining differences between living in our own space and falling out of it. The man didn't come to the Rebbe and say, Rebbe, my heart is troubled with pain. He didn't say, Oy, Rebbe, I'm struggling with my sense of worthiness. I'm not feeling very good about myself. None of that. Instead, the spotlight in his mind was on other people. He said, Rebbe, other people are stepping all over me. The Rebbe's advice addressed the real issue the man was dealing with. The Rebbe said, get into your own life, your own space. Live between you and Hashem, not between you and other people. Make your choices. Other people aren't doing what you think they should be doing. Okay, that's not on you. That's not where you have choices. Don't spread yourself out so that their stuff is stepping on you. Just do your life. Make your chelak into Olam Haba. I want to share a few personal experiences so that you can form your own personal connection to this idea of living in your own life versus living outside of your life. I would love for you to have a clear picture of what this looks like and what this could look like for you. So here's something from my own experience. Did you ever meditate about what someone else did wrong? I used to do it all the time. I'd be washing my dishes and at the same time replaying a conversation in my mind. I'd be thinking, how could she say that over and over and over again? That's called meditating about what someone else did wrong. It's one example of how we leave our own space. Did I decide to leave my own space? Did I say, okay, Shterna, let's take a trip? No, of course not. It was natural. I had a conversation that made me feel uncomfortable. The result of the discomfort, boom, I'm in my head prosecuting the other person, thinking about what should have been different, imagining what I might have said, what that person might have then said. You know the routine. I'm sure you do this too all the time. We all do this until we learn how to defy our Yetzer Hara's allergic reaction to pain and discomfort. These days, the minute I hear my mind thinking about what someone else should or shouldn't be doing, I immediately turn the spotlight in my mind back to where it belongs, in my own life, in my own choices. I ask myself one important question. What's going on for you? What's going on for me? What am I feeling? What label was just thrown in my direction? In the courtroom of my mind, what's my own internal prosecutor saying about me? And from there, by asking myself these questions, I then feel capable moving into deciding what my choices should be, what my choices will be in the moment. Some people ask me, why is it important to know what you're feeling? Okay, I understand, be in your own space, so just do the right thing. Why does it matter what you're feeling? So in terms of actually doing mitzvahs, it's the action that counts more than anything else. At the same time, the goal of life is to come to know Hashem, and our own hearts are the center of our avodah. The Navi Yeshaya says that when Mashiach comes, Umal haaretz de'es Hashem kamayim layam mechasim kimal. The world will be filled with awareness of Hashem in such great depth and in such totality, just like the water covers the ocean. What exactly does the Navi mean? Are we talking about the rocks, knowing that Hashem is the exclusive power? The rocks don't have a problem with ego. The rocks already know that Hashem is the exclusive power. Are we talking about the animals, the fish? On some level, yes. When we do a mitzvah with an object or with any living thing, we're transforming that thing into a space where Hashem is known and wanted. But fish in the ocean are already fulfilling. Even if we don't do a mitzvah with the fish in the ocean is already fulfilling that which the fish was created to fulfill. They're doing their mission. They're listening to Hashem. They know that Hashem is the king of the world. They're not trying to defy him. They're not running their own program. They're not contradicting or denying or rejecting Hashem. So involving space and physical objects in Avodas Hashem and in doing mitzvahs is important and it's transformational. But that level of transformation is tiny, weensy, small beans compared to the huge, monumental transformation that's possible within our own hearts. Just like the fish have their mission that Hashem wants them to accomplish, and the rocks have their mission to accomplish, we too have a mission to accomplish. Kol Yisrael yesh lahem chelek la'olam haba. We're here to transform our personal space into an olam haba. We're here to know Hashem, to live with the awareness of His emes in all of our behavior, including the behavior of our minds. The emotions in our heart, our feelings, tell us where there's a space that's waiting to absorb Hashem's emes. When we feel pain or discomfort or jealousy or anger or disappointment or any emotions that we are uncomfortable with, every uncomfortable emotion comes with an invisible sign. The sign says, here's the space. This is where there is room for Hashem's emes to make a huge difference. Yesterday, you didn't have that emotion. You didn't have that challenge. So you didn't have that space in which your awareness of Hashem could make a difference. You had other space, other opportunities. But this particular scene with these emotions that are coming up for you in your heart, this is a whole new level, a whole new space in which Hashem could be known right here, right now. The words we say right after Shema are Ve'ahavta es Hashem Elokecha b'chol levavecha, right? Love Hashem with your whole heart. If we love Hashem, why is it a mitzvah? Why do we need to be told to love Hashem? And if we don't love Hashem, how could telling us to love Hashem change our feelings? The answer is that our emotions are influenced by what we think about in our minds. So by changing the way we think, we ultimately change the way we feel. So knowing our emotions is the starting point. A dentist needs to take an x-ray before working on our teeth, because without the x-ray, it's like working in the dark. So too, for us to do the avodah of filling the cavity in our heart with love for Hashem, we need to take x-rays. We need to know what's going on inside of our hearts so that we can work to bring a change, to bring about the change that we are here for. We don't have any choices about what kind of emotional stuff we get. There's never room for judgment about our emotions. Don't judge yourself, because emotions come from Hashem. Who we are is how Hashem made us to be. Some of us are naturally more sensitive or more anxious or more prone to jealousy or anger. Some of us are naturally more lighthearted. Some of us are naturally more heavy-hearted. Some of us are more passionate and we experience our emotions more intensely than others, the energizing emotions and the disempowering emotions too. Hashem created us as we are with our natural instincts. So knowing where we are in our hearts is the starting point in the game. There's no judgment about it, but this is the game. It's getting to know we need to know our emotions in order to get to be firmly grounded in our starting point, in order to be able to get to where we want to go in our lives. Again, just in one line, our emotions are an important part of the stage in which our avodah will take place. But what happens? Our Yetzer Hara is allergic to pain or discomfort. So when we have these emotions, our instinct is to block them out and turn the spotlight of our minds outside of our own selves. Here's another example of this. A woman once called me and said she's in the middle of a major crisis in her life. What's the crisis? Her brother's son became a chassan. He got engaged. I was a little lost. What's the emergency about a simcha? So she explained. She said she has a daughter who's older than the boy who got engaged. It's so painful for her, and I could understand that. It's so painful for her that her nephew got engaged first. And more than that, and this is where I lost her, where she lost her reality, she said, the real pain, she said, is that her brother and sister-in-law are not being sensitive to her feelings and she can no longer talk to them. She went on to describe many details of what that looked like. There was indeed a real crisis and a real mess. What happened? The real pain is the fact that her daughter is still waiting and didn't yet find her shidduch. But that wasn't what the woman came to me with the crisis. She didn't say, I have a crisis, my daughter's not engaged. Her crisis is, my nephew's a chassan. Why? Because the Yetzer Hara looks at the pain of her daughter not being engaged, and the Yetzer Hara says, nah, that's too intense. It hurts way too much. Let's give life the other foot. So subconsciously, without even realizing it, she moved out of her space, and now the crisis is not about her daughter's need for a shidduch. The crisis is what the other person said or didn't say at the l'chaim. The way the other person said Mazel Tov wasn't sensitive, and now she cannot talk to her, and she won't even be able to go to the chasana. By the way, as you're hearing about someone else's story, it's easy to see that the real crisis is her daughter's need for a shidduch and not about her brother's son getting married. But in our own lives, it's not so simple and clear to see. And we all do this. We move out of our own space and we get a brand new collection of potholes and problems on our road. I want you to take a moment here and now to try to think about the urgent crisis, the drama in your life, and turn the spotlight in your mind from being focused outside to being focused inward on what's going on in your own heart and in your own mind. What are you feeling? What are you doing? Next week, we'll talk about another tool that can help us process the emotions. But for now, just look at them. What are you feeling? What's the pain about? What label is being thrown at you? What's the prosecutor in your own mind suggesting or pronouncing or announcing to the whole entire world? Here's another personal experience. Recently, a woman who I'll call Eliza shared that her husband came home from work in a very bad mood. He was upset about something that happened with his boss, and he came home grumbling instead of communicating. As soon as Eliza understood what was going on, she started thinking about how to give her husband more space to process his difficult day. She adjusted mentally in her mind, she adjusted her expectations and her plans for the evening. And she started thinking, what can I do for him to show that I love him and that I'm supporting him? As she did that, it suddenly hit her how far she has come on the journey, because she's been in our program, in the Energized Living course for a couple of years now. And it hit her how far she'd come and how much she changed. And she was so happy. And that's when she called me to share the moment. She said, in the past, if he would be in a bad mood, the first thing I would do is analyze all my behavior. Did I do anything wrong to upset him? Then I would apologize for whatever I thought it was. And then I got angry if his mood didn't change back right away. I tried talking him out of his mood. And then I got frustrated with him because he wasn't responding the way I wanted him to respond. Looking back, I can see that I was just trying to make his mood go away. I needed him to stop being in a bad mood. Why? Because I was uncomfortable with it. My Yetzer Hara couldn't tolerate it. And that's not actually kind and respectful. It's making his mood an event that's happening between him and me. Really, his mood is an event that's happening between him and Hashem. It's his avodah. Now that I'm respecting the value of my own avodah, my own space, I'm also respecting his. I can't do his avodah for him, but I could give him space, and I could be kind and supportive. I was so happy for Eliza to have this moment in which she was able to celebrate the goodness of her avodah, the whole new level of love and respect in her marriage that she was experiencing. When we start acting as if we have choices about someone else's stuff, choices about someone else's choices, we lose sight of our ability to choose our own behavior. And in that moment, we lose our ability to be kind or loving or supportive. So our goal is we want to stay firmly grounded in our own chelak that's ours to transform into Olam Haba, because from within our own space, we can reach out with kindness and love to other people. We can't choose someone else's choices. We can't choose what they think or what they feel or what they should say or what they shouldn't do. But we could always choose our own behavior. When Eliza was out of her space, she couldn't be kind. She was too busy being angry and frustrated and miserable. When she stayed in her own space, she could choose kindness, she could choose love, she could choose to give her husband space that he needed. I'd like to offer one more tool that brings all of the above together. The tool is simple and user-friendly, and here it is. Okay? Imagine there are two completely different circles, two different areas of space. The first circle is called disempowered living. The second one is called energized living. In the disempowered space, we're feeling stress, self-pity, helplessness, resentment, guilt, intensely needy and alone, all the disempowering feelings we've been talking about. In the energized space, we're feeling calm, secure, taken care of, validated, dignified, and empowered to live this moment with joy. There's only one thing that separates these two different circles. When we have this one thing, we are where we want to be, and we have all the goodness that we want to have. When we don't have this one thing, we are stuck in disempowerment. What's the one thing that makes all the difference? It's not really a thing. It's the Aleph. It's Alufai Shel Olam. It's Hashem. The word for Galus, exile, is Goyla. The word for redemption is Geula. There's only one difference between these two words. Between these two words, Goyla and Geula. The word Geula has an Aleph. Aleph represents Alufai Shel Olam, the master of the universe. When we invite the Aleph into our lives, when we center our lives around Hashem's truth, we transform another inch of our hearts and our minds into Geula, into the Olam Haba. We transform another inch of the whole world into Geula. And with that, we're bringing the ultimate goodness of Geula closer for ourselves and for the entire world. This is true on a global level, and it's also true on a personal level. At any given moment, we're either locked into the stress, misery, and resentments of our personal geula, of our personal gullus, the disempowered circle, or we're alive and energized in a state of personal geula. What makes all the difference? It's all about the Aleph of Alufai Shel Olam. It's about the presence of the Ribbono Shel Olam. In the world at large, Hashem is hidden. In the space of his hiddenness, like we said a million times, there's a whole set of rules that appears to be true. These rules contradict Hashem's emes. When we buy into these rules, when we act as if they're true, we are in a vicious cycle of disempowered living, also known as a personal gullus. But when we bring the Aleph into this moment, when we're holding on to the Aleph as we engage in our lives, we're calm, secure, empowered, and joyful. And this state of being is also known as a personal geula. A tzaddik once heard the sound of a shofar blowing. He quickly opened the window to take in the ear from the outside. He then closed the window and said, it's not Mashiach. Mashiach didn't yet come. People asked, why did the tzaddik have to open the window to sniff, to take a whiff from the outside ear? And they realized the reason. The reason was that because within this tzaddik's personal space, there already was the smell, the ear, the radiance of Geula. He had done the work of transforming his personal chelek into Olam Haba. So in order to see if Mashiach came, he needed to open the window. For all of us who are not tzaddikim, until Mashiach comes, we have a Yetzer Hara, and our Yetzer Hara will constantly keep pulling us out of our own space. It's always going to be allergic to discomfort and pain. We can train it, we can tame it, we can put a leash on it, but the ultimate transformation can only happen when Mashiach comes. So we get pulled out of our own space, of our own energized living cycle, and our mission is to keep coming back. Kol Yisrael yesh lahem chelek l'olam haba. Be'ezus Hashem, next week we'll take this discussion to the next level. We'll talk about how to proactively strengthen our position within our own choices and our own life. For now, this week, find yourself slipping out of that space, develop more awareness about it, and do the work of coming back, which really brings together all the learning that we've been doing throughout this series. I want to wish you a week of energized living and personal geula, and may we have the global geula today.